If dissenters are punished and can anticipate they're going to be punished, then you might have a situation where no one actually believes something, but everyone believes that everyone else believes it. And therefore, no one is willing to be the little boy that says the emperor is naked. Free speech is important everywhere, but particularly on college campuses. That's because they're an institution in which ideas are developed, presented, debated, evaluated outside the walls of the university. There are constitutional protections for saying things that might be wrong or that might be offensive. It's the university that imposes more stringent restraints on speech than society at large. We're in a really sad state of affairs if it's the lawyers that have to tell the professors and university administrators what they can and can't say. In order that ideas be brought to light and evaluated, including ideas that we may all believe that may be wrong, it's happened in history many times, it's essential that there be a space in which those ideas can be stated explicitly and evaluated. In fact, one answer to the mystery of why societies often fall under the spell of a collective delusion, such as the European witch hunts, which tortured to death 150,000 women who were suspected of causing ships to sink and crops to fail by casting spells, or pogroms against Jews who were accused of killing Christian boys to use their blood to make matzah, not to mention the horrors of Stalinist Soviet Union or Hitler's Germany. You look at them retrospectively and you say, how could everyone have been so mad? On top of being evil, these ideas seem patently ludicrous. How can you have a collective delusion overtaking an entire society? And it looks like one of the answers is, if dissenters are punished and can anticipate they're going to be punished, then you might have a situation where no one actually believes something, but everyone believes that everyone else believes it. And therefore, no one is willing to be the little boy that says the emperor is naked. And this pluralistic ignorance, as it's sometimes called, is easily implemented when you have the punishing or censoring of unpopular views. Well, taboo itself is an interesting psychological topic. Why are certain thoughts sinful to think, given that they harm no one? And there's a theory that comes from the psychologist Philip Tetlock that the psychology of taboo comes from the need to protect certain sacred relationships that we have. If I were to ask you how much money would you accept to sell your child, or as in indecent proposal for your wife or fiancé to have sex with another man, what's it worth to you? The usual response is not, well, what are you offering? It's, maybe I can do better. It's I'm outraged even to contemplate that indecent proposal. So in our intimate relationships, there is a certain logic to keeping certain thoughts just out of bounds. Just don't go there. That's the kind of relationship we have. That's the kind of person I am. That's the esteem with which I hold you. It just becomes maladaptive when you apply the logic of intimate relationships to the sphere of ideas, where by entertaining a particular idea, you're basically betraying your solidarity with the tribe. As with families, as with couples, coalitions of people, probably originating from our tribal psychology, are held together by shared beliefs that one dare not question. In particular, betrayal of the group. That's a bit of our psychology that may have made some sense in a Hobbesian world of tribe against tribe. But when the coalitions are political parties or schools of thought or scientific theories, the psychology of taboo can really get in the way of finding the truth or of figuring out the best way to run our affairs. The doctrine of political correctness was a reaction to some genuinely upsetting developments, pseudoscientific theories of racial inferiority, the oppression of women. And as a backlash to those views, many intellectuals in the 20th century embraced the idea that the mind is a blank slate. That is, that we are born with no talents or temperaments. Everything is inscribed by parents and culture and society. That was an appealing idea because it meant if there's nothing in the mind at birth, that means that differences between the races are impossible. Differences between men and women are impossible because there's nothing there on the slate to begin with. Differences between among individuals within a society that might lead some to become rich and some to become poor, those were impossible in principle. So it seemed like an appealing idea. Now, it's an idea that is certainly false in its extreme case. Blank slates don't do anything. You could not possibly have an intelligent species like a human being that was just born as a lump of putty, to change the metaphor. And since we differ genetically, that's just the stuff of life is genetic variation, it's almost certain that we are not all biologically indistinguishable. So does that mean we have to go back to the old days where women had to stay in the kitchen with the children and that races were arranged along a hierarchy? No, of course not, because those ideas are also absurd for a number of reasons. One of them is that even when group differences exist, they always consist of overlapping distributions, two overlapping bell curves, and so you know very little about an individual just by knowing what sex or race or ethnic group he or she belongs to. It's you always get much more information by assessing the traits of that guy or that woman. We can still be completely fair, non-racist, non-sexist, make no invidious distinctions, even as we acknowledge the plain truth that not all of us are interchangeable with one another. You wonder why the data that I've presented in Better Angels of Our Nature, namely that violence has declined on so many scales of time and magnitude, could be seen as itself a politically incorrect claim. You think, gee, well, it shows that our efforts to make the world a better place have succeeded. It's a kind of an empowerment of progressive causes, like the reduction of racism and sexism that is behind the decline of lynching and racial pogroms and rape and domestic violence. So you think that especially progressives should celebrate this, but often the reaction is more one of anger and denial. And I think it's because the fear is that if you say that things have gotten better, then maybe you'll kind of take the heat off. Maybe people will say, well, we're living in a good society after all. We can relax our efforts to drive violence down, which I think is exactly wrong. I think, in fact, if people become fatalistic, they think, well, what's the point of trying to make the world a better place? People will screw it up no matter what you do. That's the license for complacency.